What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video. And in this one, I'm going to be starting my draft prospect breakdowns for the New England Patriots. Guys, we just wrapped up day one of the 3 days of the 2023 NFL draft. Obviously, we still have 6 rounds to go, and round one did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. Big shout out to everybody who attended our 3rd or 4th straight year of the Patriots Global First Round Watch Party. You guys have made this what it is. Everybody who commented, everybody who showed out means the world for your support, especially even those of you, or not even especially, but I say even those of you who were trolling in the comment sections. Might be annoying, but despite how annoying it was, you guys still showed out and supported me, so I really do appreciate that. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about the New England Patriots drafting in the first round cornerback Christian Gonzalez. Now, before we do that, let's roll that Patriots Global intro and hop into today's one. Now, Christian Gonzalez here, my friends. This was a guy I never mocked to the Patriots because I was respecting the board, and that should say a lot all within itself. This isn't a guy that should have fell to 17th overall, and that's what I want to first talk about by saying is that the New England Patriots traded down, and Matt Groh, after they selected Christian Gonzalez, actually said, we were exploring a potential trade up, didn't feel like we needed to, and we traded down. So the fact that New England got easily a guy that should have gone top 10, someone I thought could even go top 5, but a guy that should have gone top 10, they got and still traded down. So they originally had the 14th overall pick. They traded that with the Pittsburgh Steelers and got back 17th overall. So they only traded down, 3 spots? And they got a 4th round pick back in return. This isn't bad. To put this into perspective a little bit, the who was it? The Eagles and the Chicago Bears, they swapped picks. They were right after each other. They swapped picks. Eagles traded up 1, Chicago traded down, and Chicago got a 4th round pick for next year. So New England gets pretty good compensation for only trading down 3 spots in general. Now, I was a little surprised. 120th overall, I thought New England was really going to want to compile up another top 100 pick, but they add another 4th round pick. Would have been great to have a 2nd or a 3rd, but New England had traced out a couple spots. They add their 4th round pick. So a lot of maneuverability for New England. What this tells me is that expect a trade up into the 2nd, my friends. They have such ability at this point because of all the picks they have this year, all the picks they have within the first 3 rounds, not to mention all the picks they have in 2024, that they can easily move up to acquire some top end talent. They've done it the last 3 or 4 years. I expect them to do it again on day 2. But again, to trade down only a couple spots, get a 4th, and still get Christian Gonzalez absolutely blew my mind. To me, I'm still not putting 2 and 2 together on why teams did not go with Christian Gonzalez earlier. The fact that guys were flying off the board before Christian Gonzalez absolutely blew my mind. And just to put this into perspective real quick, to tell you which edge rusher, what cornerbacks actually went before Christian Gonzalez. Emmanuel Forbes went right before the New England Patriots pick with Christian Gonzalez. He went at 16. Who else did we have here? We had Devon Witherspoon go at 5th overall to the Seattle Seahawks, meaning that Christian Gonzalez, who was the projected first cornerback to go, ends up being the 3rd cornerback off and falls into the New England Patriots lap. I'm not doing my grades yet, but little sneak peek, this is an A+, and that's really no spoiler alert because everybody should have an A+ on this. To get a guy that, like I said, should have been in top 10, the best cornerback in this draft class, in my opinion, not too ahead of Devon Witherspoon, but I would say a little bit ahead of Devon Witherspoon there as the best guy to pick up a 4th, trade down, and still get him blows my mind. And I didn't think New England thought that Christian Gonzalez was going to drop either. And I think that's why they didn't trade up. I think that trade up potentially was for Gonzalez, but then they said, you know what, we can trade back and still get him. And that's exactly what they did. But not to badger on a little bit here, a little bit about Christian Gonzalez now. He's going to bring what the Patriots need. This is your CB1 at some point. And what I will say is that I don't expect him to be CB1 for the Patriots right away. Stephon Gilmore, when he came in for the Patriots, it wasn't even CB1 right away, and he was a veteran in the NFL at that point. I think the Patriots will want to go with a veteran for a little bit until Christian Gonzalez kind of adapts to the NFL. But I think by the end of the year, he very well could be pinned in as CB1. And you have a great secondary, especially if the Patriots trade up and get Brian Branch or Jordan Battle. This secondary is complete, and this could very well be the best defense in the National Football League next year because of what our front seven has and playing in the trenches, but what our secondary now has with additions of Christian Gonzalez. 6'1", this is your outside cornerback, right? This is a guy that can go up against these taller receivers and you don't have to worry. This is a guy that brings that speed also to be able to play with faster outside cornerbacks. He's also 197 pounds, so he brings the frame that you like too, unlike somebody like Emmanuel Forbes, who you questioned how is his frame going to hold up when he goes up against these taller, bigger receivers. The other thing I like about Christian Gonzalez is the fact that if the Patriots sign him to a 5th-year option when the time comes, they could get him for a 5-year contract. And at the end of that contract, Christian Gonzalez is only 25 years old. He's 20. I'm older than Christian Gonzalez, which blew my mind when I found out because I never knew that. He's very young. So much time to develop Christian Gonzalez. And that's kind of the bigger knock on Christian Gonzalez is that he has the potential to easily be a top 10 corner in the National Football League. Easily. He shows flashes to me of Jair Alexander from the Green Bay Packers, and pin that in now because I think in a few years you're going to see that. He's a total package. He has everything to work with. He has all pro tools to be able to work with. It's just refining all of those tools in him in order to make it work. And who's the best place to go to develop a young cornerback who has the tools to be able to be the best? It's easily the Patriots. And I think that this is going to give them that cornerback one that they've always had, whether it was Darrelle Revis, whether that was Malcolm Butler, whether that was Stephon Gilmore, whether that was J.C. Jackson. They've always had that cornerback one. They didn't have it last year. Questions about if they would have it this year. And now that they do, that's not a worry that we have to have. We don't have to worry about them going and looking at secondary now because they have all of those pieces. He brings the size, the speed, and the length for all of the ball skills that you're looking for. He had a breakout season in 2022, transferred to Oregon, which I thought is really interesting. Adrian Clemmer, offensive line coach who he signed, being the offensive line coach for Oregon last year. So a little bit of layover there. And I wonder if anything went into that. I wonder if anything went into the Patriots drafting Christian Gonzalez with Adrian Clem obviously being a coach there at the time. He's really good in terms of his fluidity and how he moves on the field. This isn't a guy that you're going to see get burned. This isn't a guy that you're going to see have a lot of gap separation between him and the receiver that he's going up against. Like I said, his size, smooth hips, it makes him easy to kind of switch his motion and prevent getting left in the dust, for lack of better words, when it comes to the receivers. I think that the Patriots will also really like his versatility. That's something I really like about him. It's also why I'm surprised he didn't get picked sooner because he fits really any defensive scheme. So there's no worry about there, no excuse there. He's a guy that can play press, off, man. He can play zone. He can play on the inside. He can play as a slot cornerback. He can play everywhere. So what's the question mark here? Now, his game in zone is a little bit worse than it is in man. But again, the Patriots are trying to switch more to a man-to-man team in 2023. Last year, they played primarily they still play primarily man, but they played more zone than historically they usually play. And that's not because they don't want to. It's because they didn't have the personnel to do so. But they still ran top 5 most amount man-to-man coverage despite not having the personnel to do so. So now that they have a guy who excels at playing that man-to-man personnel, you can expect the Patriots to roll back with that in 2023. This is a guy that gives them exactly that. Now, One of the bigger knocks that I've heard about him, something that Patriots fans have kind of questioned the second that they drafted him, was, isn't there character issues, mentality issues? And that is something that when doing some due diligence on him, I did hear a little bit about. And it's not something that people think. It's not that he has a lazy mentality. It's just that he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder, right? Stephon Gilmore coming to New England had a chip on his shoulder. Everyone thought he was the worst cornerback, that he was a bust of a first round pick. Turned that around and became Defensive Player of the Year for the Patriots within a couple of years. Malcolm Butler, UDFA. JC Jackson, UDFA. Christian Gonzalez was always a pretty good player, always given the opportunity. Here he was taken in the first round. The question is, will him being taken at 17, being the third cornerback off, give him that chip he needs? Analysts believe that if he can have some type of chip on his shoulder, he is going to be easily one of the best cornerbacks in the National Football League. They just have a concern that maybe he's had a lot, not necessarily given to him, but expected a lot. So he doesn't necessarily have a fire under him. He doesn't necessarily have that motivation that some other players do. And motivation can go a long way, especially if you're not necessarily talented. So imagine a guy who is talented going up against players while also having a fire lit under him. So not something I'm too worried about, though. In terms of his play, he had a coverage grade of 83.9 this past year, a run defensive grade of 75.8, a 5% missed tackle rate, which is absolutely absurd for cornerbacks. I mean, that is a sure tackler, and that makes even more sense why Christian Gonzalez makes sense for the Patriots. The size, the speed, the versatility, a guy who is a baller in terms of tackling and run stopping ability. If you had to cook up a cornerback in a kitchen, it would be Christian Gonzalez for the New England Patriots. He did allow a bit higher of a completion percentage this past year than I think he would have liked. It was a little bit above average, 60%. Excuse me. He had one dropped interception this past year, 3 total missed tackles, which is absolutely nothing. A total of 8 coverage stops. Mainly played at corner, but also played a good amount of coverage or in slot, excuse me, with 138 total in the slot. Even played a little bit in box also. This past year, he allowed a passer rating of 74.7 with a total of 4 interceptions. He allowed 3 touchdowns for 495 yards on 64 targets, 39 receptions. And does it tell me how many pass breakups he has? Yes, he had 4 picks because remember, he did transition to Oregon. He had 4 picks along with 6 total pass breakups. This isn't necessarily going to be a guy who is going to create a lot of plays, right? He isn't going to be JC Jackson, Emmanuel Forbes, or anything like that. But I think they have that ball hawk that they're kind of looking for in potentially Jack Jones. Christian Gonzalez is going to give you some plays for sure, but he's going to be more of a man-to-man press lockdown cornerback, which again, that's mainly what you're looking for in terms of a CB1. So overall, I think that this is going to be an excellent move for the Patriots. You don't have to worry about Jonathan Jones at 5'10" being your outside cornerback anymore. I'm not exactly sure where he's going to play, but even if you ask him to be an outside corner, but as CB2, I think he's going to be even a lot more productive than he was last year. And he even looked good as a CB1 this past year. But, you know, with Christian Gonzalez, Jonathan Jones, with Jack Jones and his ability that he's showing to potentially be a very good CB2 and even potential, maybe even CB1, the Patriots have officially gotten their secondary on lockdown. One more thing I do want to share with you that I found really interesting about Christian Gonzalez is what he was kind of asked about in terms of who do you model your game after? And he said, and I quote, Patriots fans, you'll love this, "I watched Stephon Gilmore a lot. Great player. I want to follow in his footsteps." This is the place to follow in his footsteps because, my friend, we made Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore wasn't much of anything in terms of when he was in Buffalo, comes to New England, and we made him that player that he was. If you model your game after him, let me tell you, we are going to get an excellent player here who is going to be one of the best defensive backs in the National Football League if we can continue to develop him. The Patriots got an absolute steal here with Gonzalez, though. I still can't wrap around my head the fact that he was there with our pick, but we also could trade down, get a 4th, and still select him. We're going to be talking a lot about this draft class, a lot about Christian Gonzalez and my grades for the Patriots draft class once this does conclude. I'll have you guys covered for all the Patriots draft picks, and analysis and reactions to all of this. So subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. Leave a big like on this video because it really helps me in the channel out. But without further ado, I appreciate you guys for watching, and go